Welcome to Patriot Bassin. In this week's Real Talk segment, I want to share with you a very handy tool that you want to have on your boat with you at all times called the Ned Rig. The Ned Rig is a very unconventional bass bait in the fact that you're basically using a crappie jig head and light to ultralight spinning tackle to go after bass. What you're going to do here is you're going to grab a Senko style worm. This one happens to be a Lake Fork Trophy Lures in a Magic Crawl Swirl. You're going to get this pair of scissors. What you want to do is you're going to want to cut the tail off of this thing about 2 to 2.5 inches worth. Let's get that. And then you're going to grab a very light jig head. 1/8 ounce or less would be recommended. This one happens to be just a standard silver 32nd ounce jig head. The color doesn't seem to matter. I've used a couple of different things. The first time I went out, I hadn't bought any tackle. I literally had been reading about this rig. I've heard about it before, kind of forgot about it. I read some articles, so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go try it out. So I just went out on the boat with what I had with me, and I had, in the lightweight jig heads, I had some that were pink, white, yellow, standard, silver gray color, unpainted. And I found that they all worked. The actual color of the worm seemed to make much more difference than the color of the jig head. So experiment around, use what you got. What you're gonna wanna do, grab your jig head here and just thread it onto the end of this Senko like you would just a regular jig or a tube bait or something of that nature. Push it on there to where it lays straight. Another trick you might want to try is put a little super glue on this, because they do tend to slide down, especially after you've caught a couple of fish. It will hold up too. If you put a little super glue on it, you're going to be able to catch 10, 12, 15 fish off this rig. If you don't put the super glue, you're going to find yourself, after a fish or two, you're going to be having to, straighten it up after every cast because it will come loose. What you're going to want to do is just put a little super glue right here on the bait holder part of the jig head after you've already run it in there once. And just push it back in. And that's really all there is to it. As I mentioned before, another thing that makes this unconventional is you're using ultralight to light spinning tackle, which I understand does not really sound all that appealing to most people when they're going fishing for bass, especially big bass. But I found that it works great, and even the small fish you catch are a lot of fun. The biggest one I've caught so far off of this has been around 2 to 2.5 pounds, and it was a fight. It was a blast. The hook set is another thing that is very different from what you would normally do, and the bite is very different, and the bite varies. What I like to do when I fish this, cast it out away from the boat, a ways on the side of some structure, because this thing does hang up very easily. It's really, that and the hook set are the two negatives I can find with this rig. Put it on the side of some structure or a rocky bank, wherever the fish may be holding. It seems to work in any situation. Throw it out there, let it sink to the bottom. And why you use the light jig head and the light line is the motion it creates as it's falling down is kind of this spiral float. In most of your bites, not most, I would say 50% of your bites are gonna come on the way down with this. Now here's where it gets kind of weird. Sometimes it will feel a lot like a Texas rigged worm, where you'll feel a couple of 2 or 3 taps and the line will go tight. Other times you won't feel anything. You literally will not know you have a fish on the line until you raise your rod tip up. And what you'll want to do is cast it out, let it sink down, sit there for a little bit, a few seconds. Then you'll want to pick it up. If you've got a fish on right then, what you want to do is, if you feel weight, tighten it up a little bit, and just pull back and start reeling, just gently. If you rear back and jerk with it, it's gonna rip this tiny hook out of a largemouth bass mouth. So just, you feel some weight, tighten down a little bit, and probably like a 45-degree angle, just real light, just kind of lean back, start reeling with it, and most of the time you will get a hookup. You will lose some fish with this because of the hook size you're using. And if you pick it up, you don't have a fish on, if you let it sit there for a minute, raise your rod tip up, let it sink back down. I do that 2, 3, 4 times on each cast, and then just start reeling it back to the boat. Here's what's neat. Sometimes you'll get bites as it's sinking, sometimes as you jig it, and a lot of times you'll get them as you're reeling it back to the boat. It really doesn't seem to matter what you do with this. It's very simple to operate. You're gonna get bites if you can get it in front of the fish. It's great for anybody to use. I can't wait to take my son Hayden out to try this thing because I know he's gonna have a blast with it. Beginners, children, pros, anybody is gonna have success with this bait. And try different colors. This one I got watermelon red, if you can see it better there. And I got a shad colored one as well. Here's one that's kind of tore up. This one is actually the first one I used. It's a black and blue flake with a pink painted jig head, hot pink with an eye on there. You can see it's been tore up a little bit. Another thing I'm going to try too is a weedless or a weed guard. I'm going to give this a shot. I just went and got these this morning. Next time I get out, I'm going to give that a shot, see if it helps around, especially around brush. This thing, it's crazy to see because, like I said, clear water or clear to kind of stained water seems to be the best setup for this because it doesn't make a whole lot of vibration, doesn't make any sound, and it's basically a sight reaction. And I mean, there's not much to it. You've got 2 to 2.5 inches of worm there, and that's it. So if they can see it, they're gonna react to it. There were several times I was just reeling it back to the boat, I'd get a bite. There was other times I would reel it in, and being that the water I could see down 6, 7 feet in, I was reeling it back, I could see big bass following it back to the boat, even little bass. There was one instance the other day, I threw it out, I saw a little bass. He was just swimming across the top of the water chasing some minnows. I saw him, I threw right on top of him, bam, hit it just like that. Just experiment around and see what works for you and your conditions. I'm really interested to try it out in some murkier water, and once I do, I will let you know on that. And for the line, what you're gonna wanna use is a 4 to 8 pound test, something light. I've got 2 rigged up right now. I've got a 6 pound test, a 8 pound test. Just with regular monofilament, you want to go with something clear. Stay away from braid because this is, like I said, you're going on site and you're fishing this in clear water. And then you're going to want to use light to ultralight tackle. I find light works a lot better just because it gives you a little more to fight with if you get a good sized fish on the line. I cannot wait to get out on the water and show y'all what this bait can do. It is amazing. I'm so excited about it. There's a lot of things I read, a lot of different baits I try, and that I read about online or on shows or wherever else. You may find it magazines, and I'll try some of them that look appealing and 50-50. Some of them I get results with, some of them don't work at all. This thing is just right out of the box. Right as soon as I got to a location that had some fish holding in there, within the first, second cast, I was catching them. Every time I've gone out, I've caught multiple fish, and I've only used this thing 3 times, and it's really great. It does not require a lot of skill. It doesn't take a lot of effort. And it works. Like I said, the only drawback is these little bitty wire hooks. Right there is trying to set one in a largemouth bass. That does become a tricky part, but just don't horse it around. Just ease back and just start reeling. I know it sounds crazy, but it's the best hooks that I've found so far. Once again, thanks for watching our first episode here of Real Talk. If you enjoy what you're seeing, tell your friends about it. Like our videos, subscribe to our channel, share with your friends, and just spread the word. We're here to just try to give you some good tips, have a little fun, take the kids out, have a good time, and just enjoy everything God has blessed us with in the outdoors. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again real soon.